The Empress didn't even bother hiding her
God.
laughter. "Conquer that," she said, gesturing toward the hologram of a creature so vast it bent gravity around its bones. The apex beast, a living extinction event, a monster that had crushed civilizations away tides erased footprints. The human didn't argue, he didn't boast. He simply stepped forward. And for the first time in 10,000 years, the Empress felt something unfamiliar tighten in her chest. Uncertainty. Because humans don't walk toward legends unless they plan to replace them. If you enjoy sci-fi stories where humanity refuses to play small, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a fellow HFY fan. It helps the channel more than you might think. And it tells me you want more epic stories like this one. Now, let's talk about the beast no empire could kill. The Imperial throne world did not echo with silence. It hummed. A low, constant vibration ran to the palace floor, born from reactors buried miles beneath the planet's crust. Power. Enough power to light 1,000 star systems, all flowing toward one place. Toward a throne carved from a single fragment of collapsed star matter. Upon it sat Empress Rewrote, ruler of the Aurelian Dominion, a being so old that most species had evolved after a reign began. Her form was tall, radiant, and sculpted with deliberate majesty. Crowns had changed across the ages. She had not. Before her stretched the Conquest Hall, a cathedral-sized chamber of levitating banners, holographic star maps, and living witnesses from across the galaxy. Admirals, scientists, war priests, species that had never known defeat until they met her. And at the center of it all stood a single human. No armor of myth, no glowing sigils, no ceremonial weapons. Just a man in a dark field coat, hands relaxed at his sides, eyes lifted, not in defiance, not in awe, but in quiet assessment, as if he were studying weather patterns instead of an immortal ruler. That alone unsettled a few people. The Empress noticed. "Human," Rewrote said, her voice amplified by nothing at all, resonating directly in the mind. "You traveled 87 jump gates to stand before me. Speak." The man inclined his head slightly. Not a bow, not submission. "I'm here for the bounty," he said calmly. A ripple moved through the hall. Not laughter yet, but anticipation. "The bounty?" Rewrote repeated, amused. "You mean the apex writ?" "Yes." At that, laughter erupted. Not cruel laughter, not mocking, indulgent laughter, the kind reserved for children who wander into storms believing courage was shelter enough. Rewrote lifted a hand, and a hologram ignited between them. It showed a world in ruin. Oceans boiled. Mountain ranges lay flattened like broken teeth. In the center of the devastation moved something vast. Too vast. A silhouette that blotted out continents. Its body armored in living plates. Its movement distorting gravity itself. "The apex beast," Rewrote said. "Devourer of fleets. Extinction of 7 apex species. The reason entire regions of the galaxy are marked uninhabitable." She leaned forward, eyes glowing faintly. "You wish to hunt that?" The human studied the image. His gaze lingered on joints, on rhythm, on the way the creature's shadow lagged half a second behind its movement. "Yes," he said, "that's the one." This time, the laughter was louder. An admiral, six-limbed and plated in ceremonial gold, stepped forward. "Your species still fights wars with kinetic weapons," it scoffed. "We lost 3 antimatter armadas to that thing." A scientist added, "It adapts faster than predictive AIs can model. Its cells rewrite themselves under threat." A war priest whispered, "It has no fear." The human didn't argue, didn't interrupt. He simply waited. Rewrote raised her hand again, silencing the hall. "Very well," she said, smiling now. "I will indulge this." She rose from the throne, her presence swelling, until even gravity seemed to lean toward her. "Conquer the apex beast," the Empress declared, "and I will grant you dominion over my entire realm." The hall went silent. Rule the Aurelian Dominion. 10,000 systems. Quadrillions of lives. Technology that bent physics into suggestion. It was an offer that had driven entire species to madness. The human looked up at her. "Clarify," he said. A few brows rose. Rewrote's smile widened. "You heard me. Kill it, subdue it, break it. I care not how. Do this, I abdicate. My throne becomes yours. She paused and laughed softly. Of course you'll fail. Everyone does. But your attempt will be entertaining. The human considered this. Then he nodded, accepted. The word landed heavier than expected. Veilrix studied him more closely now. You do not ask how you may fight it. I already know, he replied. That earned a flicker of genuine interest. You do not ask for weapons, she continued. I won't need yours. That earned murmurs. And you do not ask why I would give my empire so freely. The human met her gaze at last. Because you're bored, he said simply. And because deep down you want to know if it can be done. The hall froze. For the first time in centuries, someone had spoken a truth the Empress had not voiced. Veilrix laughed again, but this time it was sharper, shorter. Very well, human, she said. Go. Face my greatest failure. The hologram shifted, zooming in on the beast's last known location. A dead world wrapped in permanent storms, its orbit littered with wreckage the size of moons. Execution drones began to power down. Interest replaced expectation. As guards moved to escort the human away, Veilrix called out one last time. Tell me, she said, what is your name? So I may record it before history forgets you. The man paused at the threshold. Elias Rook, he replied. Then, almost as an afterthought, he added, and history won't forget. The door sealed behind him. For a moment, the Empress sat in silence, watching the storm-wrapped world rotate slowly in holographic space. She told herself it was nothing, another hopeful fool, another name soon erased. Still, her fingers tightened slightly on the arm of the throne, because when the human had looked at the apex beast, he hadn't looked afraid. He had looked curious. The world had no name anymore. Once, it had been cataloged as a garden-class planet. Wide oceans, layered forests, an atmosphere gentle enough for unarmored life. Now it was simply listed as Red Zone 07, a warning more than a designation. From orbit, the scars were impossible to miss. Crater chains ran across continents like claw marks. Entire seas had boiled away, leaving salt plains cracked into geometric fractures. Storm systems spiraled endlessly around the equator, feeding on heat that never seemed to dissipate. At the center of it all slept the apex beast. Elias Rook's ship drifted at the edge of the system, engine silent. It wasn't large. It wasn't elegant. No golden hull or imperial sigils. Just a dense, angular craft built for survival, not ceremony. Inside the cockpit, Elias studied the data scrolling across his display. Mass estimates fluctuated wildly. The creature's body density changed depending on which part of it was measured. Its skeleton, if it could be called that, was a lattice of hyperdense biological alloys grown, not forged, adaptive tissue, regenerative armor, distributed in neural clusters. In simpler terms, you couldn't kill it the same way twice. That was why it had erased armies. The Aurelian Dominion had thrown everything at the beast when it first appeared. Plasma bombardments that turned continents into glass. Gravity wells designed to tear stars apart. Temporal snares meant to freeze it in place. The beast adapted. It thickened its hide where energy struck. Shifted mass to counter gravity. Learned the rhythm of time weapons and moved between pulses. Each fleet taught it something. Each extinction made it better. Elias exhaled slowly. So that's what they built by accident, he murmured. A soft chime sounded as a ship's AI spoke. Dominion records indicate the apex beast is not a constructed weapon. It is a naturally evolved apex organism. Elias smiled faintly. Nothing about this is natural. He brought up footage from past engagements. Slowed them down, frame by frame. Here, its left flank always exposed during acceleration. Their neural lag when shifting from defense to offense. And deeper still, something the Dominion analysts had missed entirely. The beast didn't just react. It predicted. It ran simulations of its enemies based on observed behavior. Assumed consistency. Assumed optimization. Assumed its opponents would fight like machines. Elias leaned back in his chair. That's where you messed up, he said quietly. The ship descended. Atmospheric entry rattled the hull as lightning lashed across the sky. Winds howled hard enough to shear mountains down to bedrock. The surface below was a wasteland of fused stone and skeletal remains, some biological, some unmistakably mechanical. Wrecked capital ships lay half-buried like fallen gods. Elias touched down at the edge of a vast impact basin. The ground trembled. Miles away, something moved beneath the surface. The apex beast did not rise in a rush. It unfolded. Plates shifted. Spines emerged. Limbs longer than city blocks braced against the ground as the creature hauled itself upward. Its presence pressed against the air, warping light and sound alike. Its eyes, clusters of sensory organs the size of towers, locked onto Elias instantly, not with rage, with recognition. It remembered every fleet, every weapon, every pattern. Elias stepped out of his ship. No power armor, no visible shielding, just a rifle slung across his back, and a small device clipped at his belt. From orbit, Dominion observers leaned forward. "He is exposed," one whispered. "The beast will annihilate him in seconds," another said. The apex beast roared. The sound cracked the sky, flattening what little remained of the landscape. Shock waves rolled outward, strong enough to pulverize rock into dust. Elias didn't move. He waited. The beast struck. A limb slammed down with the force of an asteroid impact. Elias dove, not away, but toward it, sliding beneath the descending mass as the ground behind him vaporized. Observers gasped. That was a kill zone. Elias rolled, came up firing, not at the beast's core, but at the ground beneath it. The rifle barked, launching specialized kinetic charges that detonated in precise sequences. The terrain collapsed inward, destabilizing the beast's footing. The apex beast adapted instantly, redistributing mass, anchoring itself. But Elias was already moving. He ran unpredictably. No straight lines. No optimal paths. He zigged when logic said zag. Doubled back for no reason. Fired shots that seemed pointless. The beast hesitated. Just a fraction of a second. Its predictive models faltered. Why would prey move inefficiently? Elias used that moment to trigger the device at his belt. The air shimmered. Not a shield. Not a weapon. A noise generator, broadcasting false sensory data across multiple spectrums. Ghost signals. Phantom targets. Randomized feedback loops. To a machine, it would have been filtered. To a biological superpredator, it was chaos. The apex beast reared back, confused the first time in its existence. It lashed out, striking illusions, wasting energy, overcorrecting. Elias sprinted straight at it. "Now," he whispered. He leapt. Gravity bent around the beast's mass. But Elias used it, angling his jump, riding the distortion like a wave. He landed on its armored hide, boots magnetizing instantly. The beast thrashed. Elias ran up its body, planting charges as he went, not explosive, but sensory disruptors, each one tuned differently. Pain, disorientation, false equilibrium. The apex beast screamed again, this time not in dominance, but in something closer to confusion. From the throne world, Empress Veilrix leaned forward. "What is he doing?" she murmured. He wasn't overpowering it. He was overwhelming its ability to understand him. Elias reached the ridge near its primary neural cluster and finally drew his rifle. He placed the barrel against living armor that had never been breached, and spoke softly. "You've only fought armies," he said. "You've never fought a problem." He pulled the trigger. The shot did not explode. That alone shocked the observers. No flash, no antimatter bloom, no violent rupture of space. The round Elias fired vanished into the apex beast's armor with a dull, almost disappointing thud. For half a second, nothing happened. Then the creature screamed. Not the thunderous roar of territorial dominance. Not the sound that had shattered fleets and split continents. This scream was sharp, erratic, uncontrolled. The living plates around the impact site rippled as if confused, tried to decide whether to harden, regenerate, or reject the intrusion. Neural signals cascaded in overlapping waves, tripping over one another. What did he fire? An Aurelian scientist whispered. Unknown, another replied, frantically scanning readings. The projectile isn't destructive. It's instructional. Instructional was not the word anyone wanted to hear. Inside the apex beast, the round unfolded, not mechanically, biologically. Human engineers had learned long ago that brute force only trained predators. So they stopped trying to break systems and started teaching them bad lessons. The round carried a living code. It hijacked sensory pathways, feeding the beast impossible data, gravity vectors that contradicted themselves, pain signals without injury, balance without direction. The apex beast adapted. Of course it did. Its cells rewrote themselves at staggering speed, isolating the corrupted pathways, attempting to purge the intrusion. That was the mistake. The round had anticipated that. As the beast compartmentalized, the code replicated, mirroring the creature's own adaptive logic. Every defensive rewrite gave the infection new structure, new routes. Adaptation became propagation. From orbit, Dominion observers watched readings spike wildly. It's destabilizing its neural lattice, one said. But that should be impossible. The lattice is distributed. Elias clung to the beast's back as it thrashed, gravity warping violently around its mass. He fired again, and again. Each round carried a variation. Slightly different, slightly wrong. No pattern. The apex beast tried to predict. Its models collapsed under contradiction. Elias sprinted across its shifting armor, leaping chasms that opened and closed like living wounds. He moved with practiced chaos, sometimes hesitating, sometimes accelerating without reason, because humans had learned something important about predators. They expect efficiency. They fear irrationality. A massive limb slammed toward him. Elias dove, barely clearing the impact as the ground below liquefied under force. He rolled to his feet, breath sharp but controlled. "Come on," he muttered. "Think." The apex beast's movements grew erratic now, not weaker but uncertain. Strikes overextended. Defensive plates hardened in the wrong places. Energy bled away inefficiently. It was still powerful enough to erase cities, but it was no longer sure how. From the throne world, Empress Veilrix rose slowly from her seat. This was wrong. The apex beast was not losing. It was hesitating. "Show me its learning curve," she ordered. A hologram bloomed beside her. Streams of data representing the beast's predictive capacity. They were spiking, then crashing. "Why is it regressing?" she demanded. A silence followed. Then a single analyst spoke, voice tight, "Because it's being forced to learn too much at once." Veilrix's eyes narrowed. The apex beast reared back, drawing energy inward. Its plates glowed as it prepared a catastrophic discharge, a move that had annihilated entire armadas. Elias felt the air vibrate. Time slowed. He didn't run. He smiled. "That's the big one," he said quietly. He triggered the last device on his belt. Nothing visible happened. But across the battlefield, every sensory disruptor he'd planted activated simultaneously. Not in unison, but in deliberate discord. The beast's own nervous system betrayed it. The energy discharge misfired. Instead of releasing outward, it cascaded inward, feeding back through its own body. The apex beast convulsed as internal systems overloaded, its armor cracking under forces it had never needed to resist. It collapsed. The impact shook the planet. Dust and debris filled the air, blotting out the sky. For several seconds, no one spoke. Then movement. A limb twitched. The beast was still alive. Barely. Elias dropped from its back, landing hard but upright. He approached the creature's massive head, now resting half buried in the shattered ground. One enormous, I focused on him. There was no rage there. No hunger. Only something disturbingly close to comprehension. "You could adapt forever," Elias said softly, "but you never learned why you were fighting." He raised his rifle one final time. The beast did not resist. The shot was clean. When the dust settled, the apex beast lay still. Silence rolled across the dead world. From orbit, alarms began to change tone. Vital signs ceased. A voice confirmed. Another added, almost reverently. The apex beast is neutralized. On the throne world, Empress Veilrix stood frozen. She had watched empires fail. She had watched gods fall. But she had never watched a single being dismantle a living extinction engine, using confusion, restraint, and insight. Her laughter from earlier echoed in her memory and tasted bitter. "Bring him back," she said quietly. "He has earned his audience." On the ruined world, Elias exhaled and slung his rifle over his shoulder. Behind him lay a monster that had ruled through inevitability. Ahead of him waited an empire built on certainty. He turned toward his ship, and for the first time in galactic history, the question was no longer can humanity survive? It was, what happens when humans decide to rule? The Conquest Hall had never felt so small. When Elias Rook stepped through the sealed gates, the chamber that once roared with confidence now held its breath. The banners of conquered civilizations drifted in silent suspension, their holographic sigils dimmer than before, like witnesses ashamed to look too closely. He walked alone. No honor guard, no restraints, no escort. That unsettled him more than chains ever could. At the far end of the hall, Empress Veilrix sat upon her throne once more, but she did not recline this time. She sat forward, hands clasped, eyes fixed on a man who had done the impossible. "The apex beast is dead," she said. "Not a question. A fact." "Yes," Elias replied. A murmur rippled through the assembled elites. Scientists exchanged glances. Admirals studied him as if recalculating reality itself. Veilrix rose. Each step she took down from the throne echoed, sharp and deliberate. When she stopped before him, the height difference was striking, but for the first time it meant nothing. "You have fulfilled the terms of the Apex Writ," she said. "By my word and by Dominion law, my realm is yours." A shockwave of disbelief tore through the hall. Rule the Aurelian Dominion. Now, Elias did not smile. He did not kneel. Instead, he looked around the chamber, at the relics of fallen powers, the weapons built to intimidate the universe into obedience. "Before I accept," he said calmly, "there's something you should understand." Veilrix raised a brow. "You would negotiate after victory?" "I would explain," Elias replied, "because that's the difference." The Empress studied him for a long moment. Then, with a slow gesture, she dismissed the guards. "Speak." Elias turned, addressing the hall as much as her. "You built an empire on inevitability," he said. "Your enemies believed resistance was pointless. Your subject believed obedience was survival. And for a long time you were right." He paused. "But inevitability is fragile." A few officials bristled. "The apex beast was your proof," Elias continued. "A monster that adapted to everything. A living argument that resistance only made things worse." Veilrix's eyes narrowed. "And yet you killed it." "Yes," Elias said, "because it adapted in only one direction." He tapped his temple. "It learned how to win fights. Humans learned why fights happen." Silence followed. Elias stepped closer to the throne. "We don't just adapt physically," he said. "We adapt emotionally, socially, strategically. We change the rules when the game stops making sense." He looked up at Veilrix. "You laughed because you thought power was about scale. Bigger fleets, stronger monsters, older rule." The Empress did not interrupt. "But power," Elias said softly, "is about choice." A Dominion historian spoke, voice unsteady. "Then what do you intend to do with the throne?" Elias turned. "I don't want it," he said. The hall erupted. "Impossible. You earned it. Dominion law." Veilrix raised a hand, silencing them all. "You refuse?" she asked. "I redefine," Elias replied. He faced her again. "You offer me your realm if I conquered the apex beast," he said. "I did." "Yes. But you never said I had to replace you." A flicker of something passed through Veilrix's expression. Curiosity, relief, perhaps fear. Elias continued. "I don't want an empire that rules through fear. I want a system that survives change." He gestured to banners overhead. "Your conquests are static. Humanity isn't." Veilrix laughed then. Not the dismissive laugh from before. A quiet one. You would dismantle an empire you could own. I would evolve it, Elias said. She studied him for a long time. Then, slowly, deliberately, she bowed. The Empress of the Aurelian Dominion bowed to a human. Gasps echoed through the hall. You have beaten my greatest weapon, Veilric said, and exposed my greatest weakness. She straightened. I built monsters to maintain control. You killed one to prove control is obsolete. She extended her hand. Then rule with me, she said, until my kind learns what yours already knows. Elias hesitated only a moment before taking it. From that day forward, the Dominion changed. Not overnight, but inevitably. Military doctrine shifted from domination to deterrence. Apex weapons were dismantled or reprogrammed. Subject worlds were given autonomy, not because they demanded it, but because humanity proved it was safer. Across the galaxy, whispers spread. The Apex beast was dead. The Empress no longer laughed. And humans? Humans became something new. Not conquerors, not saviors, but the species that taught the galaxy its most terrifying lesson, that adaptability without wisdom creates monsters, and wisdom without fear creates legends.